Hi guys, today we're gonna do some proper anime art nails. These are based on a comic called, well, a manga called Menhera-chan. So I've already gone ahead and done all my prep. I've done a thin layer of colour and then a thin layer of clear, and I've shaped them. But they are thinner than they would normally be because I am actually going to cap these in acrylic, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Now this is going to be a very long video because I've edited every single bit of dead air out of this video, and it's still 45 minutes long. They took me about 6 hours to do because I was really sick, and I still am, as I'm sure you can probably tell by my voice. So I was stopping every 5 minutes to go blow my nose and then wash my hands and all that sort of stuff. So I'm just going to go through some of the ways that I do the art myself at the moment. This is my current technique. I'm still sort of developing it. So I'm just going to go through some of the details. So first of all, I'm blocking out the shapes. I'll try and pop a reference image for each of the art pieces so that you can see what I'm doing. But I'm basically looking at the proportions of the reference and blocking in my shapes first, and then I come in with my lines, and then if I need to, I'll come back and tidy up the lines with the colours as well. So sort of like block around the lines to thin them out. But so far these are the smallest ones that I've ever had to do. So this is sort of a learning process for me as well. Because my nail beds, as I'm sure you can see, are absolutely huge compared to my clients here. So I'm just going to get everything blocked in, and then I'll come back when it's time for the lines. When I'm doing the blocking in, I'm keeping the paint watered down, and just all I'm concentrating on is making sure that everything is the correct size, at the correct angle, everything's in the right place, everything's roughly the right shape. If I do mess it up, I can always block it back in with the colour next to it. I'm very careful around the periphery of where my paint's going to finish, because obviously it's difficult to take the paint off. It's easy to cover it up, but it's hard to take it off, and I don't want to have to try and mix the colour of the nail, if that makes sense. So I start just layering up. I'm usually doing 2 layers of each colour, but obviously waiting for it to dry in between. So I'll say, for example, with the face there, I blocked the face out, then I blocked the hair out, then I went back and did the face again, then I went back and did the hair again, then I did the eyes, then I did the shadow, then I went back to the eyes. Now I'm going to go back to the shadow in a minute. And then while I'm waiting for bits to dry, I can start lining other bits. So any bit that looks, like it's blocked in completely, I can start to line in. Now when I'm doing the lining, I'm keeping my paint very thin, and I'm also, as I'm picking it up on my palette, I'm dragging along the palette to make sure that it's evenly distributed throughout the brush, so I don't have a blob on the end. And I'm also just using the very, very tip of the brush, especially for like swirls. It's okay for a line to put your brush flat down, but obviously make sure you keep the tension, like how much you press against the nail, the same, so that it doesn't end up fat thin kind of thing, unless you want it to thin out or whatever, and then obviously start lifting it off. So I'm just gonna block in this nail a little bit, and I'll come back when I've got something more to say. Just popping some eyelashes on here. Now with the eyelashes, they're essentially just dots, so try and lay my brush down from the tip and just put the tip of the brush where I want the eyelash to end, and then just sort of bend the brush a little bit onto at the angle that I want the eyelash, to make it touch the white basically. Another important thing to do is to make sure that you keep your brush completely clean. So as soon as that paint starts to dry, you absolutely have to clean your brush and reapply the paint to it. If you are having trouble keeping your line consistent, this is one of the major things that made a big difference for me, so I'm assuming that, you know, that it would make the same difference for yourself. Every time I'm reblocking a shape, I am slightly sort of cutting in around it with the colour next to it. I find that helps to keep everything looking tidy, and you know, if you are trying to do a small thing like an eyelash and it goes a bit longer than you want, you can always just block it back in with the other colour, provided it won't go into, you know, a paintless area. In that case you have to get some water and try and gently scuff it off with a brush. Yeah, and you can always go over as well, like for example, I didn't bother putting the bows in first. I did the pigtails and then added the bows afterwards, because you can completely cover it. I'm using acrylic paint. I do want to get some gel paints at some point, because I'd like to have a play with those and see if they are actually better. I'm assuming they're actually a lot better, but you know, acrylic paint does absolutely fine as long as you get, you know, quite decent quality paint and keep it watered down. I use a wet palette as well, so I have like a sponge in a soap dish that I've got a form, you know, a form backing on top of, that's and the sponge is soaking wet, so that it just keeps the paint wet the entire time I'm working. Like I say, these took about 6 hours to do the art, and my paint didn't dry out on the palette at all. So yeah, I'm just trying to put in the tiny little necklaces. I did really enjoy doing this set. They're super cute little characters. They're from a manga called Menhera-chan, which is the pick of my client. So yeah, it's like a little sort of kawaii kind of comic, but with like undertones of mental health kind of conversation, if you like. It's that, you know, like representation. But yeah, it's super cute. I like it. It's not something I've read myself though, but I am aware of its connotations, so you know, don't feel the need to come tell me. So yeah, I've just moved on to the next character now. I will be coming back to the original, because as you can see, I've not put any highlight in the eyes or anything, because I'm allowing the irises and pupils to dry. A good thing to keep in mind when you're working with acrylic paint is obviously it is air dry, so if you do have quite a bit where you've done it like with a dotting tool or something like that, it can take a while to dry. It can be a bit runny, so make sure that if you're going to come back in with another colour on top, especially a lighter colour, you make sure that it's dry first, otherwise you'll just end up smudging it all over the place and end up with grey eyes. Sorry, that was my phone. So again, I'm just blocking in, going over the areas to make sure that they're solid enough. It doesn't matter how thick they are, because I am encapsulating these, so you won't be able to tell, but it is important that the colour is solid, because otherwise it'll look like you can see the base colour and stuff like that, and it'll look blotchy. But yeah, you won't see any brush strokes or anything once it's encapsulated. Even if you're just going to cover these in gel polish, it completely disguises it. It makes it look like it's all one texture, so there's, you know, you don't need to worry about that. The client that I'm doing today is a lovely lady. She's got she's a very talented artist, and she's got an Instagram page called Sidonian Zeta. I'll drop a link for that in my description box, because her art is absolutely gorgeous. She does all like kawaii art. It's real, and like yummy kawaii and stuff like that. She's proper adorable. She's really nice as well. I think she's got a convention coming up soon, so I'll see if I can find out where it is and pop you a link in the description, because she sells like resin art and printed art and things like that, and badges and stuff, so it'd be worth having a look if you like that sort of aesthetic. So again, I'm just coming in and lining around my areas now, just while I'm waiting for certain bits to dry, and then I'll go in with the eyes. I have obviously sped up this video. I don't paint this fast. I think it's about 4 times faster than actual, so it's a marathon, not a sprint, this set. Just popping those eyes in now. The brushes I'm using a probably about a 3. This one I've just blocked in there was about a 3mm normal art brush, and then the super fine one that I've got there is the 003, I think, from Nails, or a 001. I think it's a 001. The 003 is long, I think, or maybe a 001 actually. Yeah, it's a 001. That's it. So yeah, they come in varying sizes. Obviously, the longer it is, the harder it is to work with for small curves, you know, for doing sharp turns. So you want a long brush for striping and a short brush for going in circles, basically. So for detailing. I've got a pretty steady hand though. I don't even need a long brush for striping, to be fair. I can stripe with this brush, no bother. Yeah, I'm just going in and adding in those, like reblocking in those details after I added the shine. I used the dotting tool to do the eyes on this one, and then I decided, because there's so much detail, like so many fine lines, and the eyes, the highlights are so small, it won't worth doing. So on the other ones I just use a brush. I just do the eyes white and then block around that with black to do the shape of the shine, basically. I'm just obviously constantly looking at my reference as well, trying to get their personalities there a little, you know, make sure that their expressions are correct, because when you're working this small, the tiniest little detail can make it look goofy, you know, make it look a bit wonky. So I'm trying my best to kind of make sure that all the distances of their eyes and where, you know, the direction they're looking in and the size of their iris is right, and the mouth's perfectly placed and things like that. Because I do think those things make a massive difference. Like, the quality of your line's important, but it's not as important as making sure that the proportions are correct, because that's what makes things look amateur when you see people's artwork and stuff. If the proportions are not right, then that's what looks stupid. Like, for example, there I did the pupil / iris too narrow, so I've just thickened it up on one side. I'm not bothering to fill the whole thing in, because I'm going to have to bring the white over a bit for the shine. You know, things like that, making sure that that everything's proportionally correct. That's the most important thing when you're doing any sort of art, in my opinion, obviously. It's more important than the shading, than the in air quotes skill. The most important thing is the construction of the figures, in this case the faces. Like I said, I did the eyelashes there and they were massive, so I've gone back in around them with the other colour just to tidy them up and sharpen them up and make them the right size basically, and the right length. Even if I accidentally blob a big bit of black on it, I can fix it. It's not, it's not watercolour or anything. You've not ruined it. It's, with it being acrylic, you can actually paint right over it, so it's fine. You just obviously have to wait for it to dry so that your black doesn't seep through or whatever. So again, I'm just blocking in the face. I've got my reference picture next to me. I'm looking at it all the time, making sure that everything looks right. If something's slightly off, I'll wait for it to dry and go over it with another colour, whatever it needs. Whether it needs the face widening or the hair taking up some more of the face, or whether I've done the head too big, too small, whatever. So I'm just blocking in this like lilac colour. Actually looks a bit grey on camera, but it wasn't, it's quite lilac. Going over the face again just to solidify that colour, make sure it's nice and solid. Popping a little top on. And a collar, make sure that face is really solid. Putting in a fringe, or bangs as Americans say. Laying out roughly the trim on the collar. On this character, she's meant to be like the tired one, and she's yawning in this particular reference. So I decided to add a little blush to her as if she's woken up a bit. So to do that, what I'm doing is I'm mixing the skin colour with a tiny bit of red, and I'm sort of like stippling it on with the art brush, and then mixing more of the skin colour in and going around the edges and stippling, and then putting just skin colour on my brush, and then stippling some more around the edges and sort of just blending it all. When you're doing like a stipple blend kind of thing, it actually always looks tons better once it's top coated. So if it doesn't look amazing, but it looks passable, that's perfect, because it will look amazing once you've top coated it. So don't worry about it. Don't sit there trying to sort it out. It's kind of like doing an ombre. Like if it looks passable before you put your clay cap on, then it'll look great with your clay cap on. So that's basically the same principle. So what I'm going to do is, obviously, I'm going to leave you to watch some of this. I'll come back when it's time to cap it, so just so that I can explain, what I'm doing and why I'm doing it and stuff like that, and how to make it last. But for now, just watch me finish off the painting. Obviously, bear in mind what I'm doing at each stage. So I'm always, blocking out, getting the proportions correct, sorting out my composition. Then I'm coming in and adding a little more detail, and I'm re-blocking colours, making sure it's all right, constantly looking at my references. Then I'm putting in my lines, and I'm reworking my lines with the colours by blocking them in, and I can keep making adjustments that way. So I'll let you watch that. I'll turn the music up for a little while, and then I'll come back when it's time to start capping, so that I can explain how to make them last. Okie dokes, enjoy. Okay, so this is what you need to do to make them last, because if there's any acrylic on the edges of the nail, any acrylic paint rather on the edges of the nail, then the acrylic will peel. So what you need to do is get it off the periphery of the nail so that there's a tiny border all the way around where the acrylic liquid and powder can attach to the acrylic liquid and powder that's underneath the paint. I'm also re-pushing back the cuticles at this point as well, because obviously it's been like 6 hours since I pushed them back, so they've moved a little. So I just want to make sure that I can get that acrylic right to where it is originally. So holding the skin back, I'm using a proper consistency bead. I'm not using it too wet because that might ruin the paint, and I'm certainly not doing it too dry because you do need it to be clear. So I'm just doing like a 1 bead application, never touching the acrylic paint with my monomer, because that may run it. I don't know. I've just never risked it. So and I'm making sure that the acrylic gets really smooth at the cuticle, making sure that I make this nail as perfect as physically possible with my brush, because I do not want to have to file it much. So obviously I'm finishing that off, doing that on all of them, and then what I've done is I've filed just to make, just a tiny bit to make sure that they're perfect, and then I've buffed them, and then I've wiped them all with acetone to make sure that they're as clear as physically possible. There's no scratches on the surface at all, because any scratches, because of how deep the art is, any scratches will cast a shadow and make the art look fuzzy. So now I'm just coming in with the top coat as well. Now this is the Urban Graffiti top coat. It's just their non-wipe. It's not the Mega Gloss. It's just the regular soft gel, soak off gel top coat. Now I always do 2 coats of top coat. So I do the first coat and cap the edge and everything, cure it for 30 seconds, then come in and do another one while it's still warm and do it for 60. And I find that makes the shiniest for me. So that's what I'm doing now. So as you can see, obviously, as I'm going over this art, it is exactly as if it's not even capped. You can't even tell. It just looks a little deeper than it would ordinarily, so it's got like a nice little level of depth to it. I think it keeps it perfect. You can even, if the client has no lifting whatsoever, you can even infill these and keep the art there, which I have done before and it was absolutely fine. So in theory, all this work you've put in could last, 6 to 8 weeks, if you're lucky. If not, then you'll have to redo it or take it off or whatever. So I'll just let you watch the rest of this top coating and I'll be back in a second. Last nail top coating now. So I did really enjoy this set. It was one of my favourite sets so far this year. I've absolutely loved doing all the art, even though it did take a very long time. The lady that I did this on was just so lovely to be around and so understanding with me being sick and stuff like that. So it was just a joy. So I'm gonna go ahead now and do the hand massage with the cuticle oil. I've left this in because if you're this far into this video, you're obviously committed now, so you might as well watch another 2 minutes, haven't you? If you are still around, I appreciate you sticking in for this. I know it's a long one. I hope you found it interesting. I'm just obviously giving my client a little hand massage as a reward because she's been sat there for so long, bless her. So but just making sure that she's comfortable now and easing up those muscles that she's had to keep tense for like 6 hours. So I do enjoy this bit. This is my favourite bit of all the videos, like I've said before. Like everybody else loves top coat, I love hand massages. I don't know why. But they'll relax me to watch them. Like I feel relaxed now just watching myself massage this hand. It's like I'm having a hand massage. It's great. It's like a vicarious massage. So yeah, but yeah, I just go ahead and give my client a hand massage, and then I'll come back in and I'll squeak the nails with some clean paper, you know, some clean kitchen roll or couch roll or whatever you're using, and then we go ahead and take some photos, which I'll leave at the end for you. But yeah, I do hope you've enjoyed watching this. I know it's been incredibly long, and I'm so glad you've stuck around, so thank you very much. And even if you skipped to the end, thank you anyway. You still did, you know, did me a solid, and I hope you do like this sort of video, because this is going to be more of what I'm doing really. I've got some Pokemon nails coming next week, which I've already done. I just need to get those edited, so that'll be next Tuesday's video. And then after that, we'll see. I've got a couple of models coming in for different things, so good stuff coming up. I'll try and throw some normal videos in between as well, you know, with like salon-y kind of sets, just so they're not all massive nail art sets that nobody's ever going to do. I'm going to hopefully be doing some competition practice soon as well, because I'm going to try and enter a competition this year. So I'll put some things up about that as well. I'll put some of my practices up. I'll try and vlog the competition if I can. It depends if I can get permission. But yeah, so if you do want to see more of this content, please do subscribe. I'm putting videos up every Tuesday now, hopefully. So yeah, and if you do like the video, like it please, because it helps me so much. I've only got like 23 subscribers, I think, so you know, I'm just a baby channel, so if you could subscribe and like, I'd be so appreciative. But yeah, so I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next Tuesday. Bye bye.